Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Rise to Your Peak podcast. I am here with my guest, Elenoa McCabe. She is an IFBB Pro bikini competitor, and she is also a um, online fitness coach to a lot of competitive athletes as well as lifestyle athletes, primarily specializing in female clients. How are you doing, Noah?
Good. I'm so good. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, I'm so happy to have you on. I've gotten to do yours a couple of times, so it's nice to have you on mine.
Yeah, I'm so excited. I was hoping that you'd have a podcast because I think you have a lot to share. So I'm really excited that you have one going and I'm honored to be part of it. So thank you. Thank you for
Well,
having me on.
thank you so much. And I commented a second ago, but I want to go ahead and comment again. I'm loving the shirt. It's looking really
Yeah.
good.
It's a great shirt. It's so soft.
Oh, I'm so glad to hear that.
Yeah, good material.
So Noah's actually in contest prep for her pro debut. Is that correct?
Yes. Yes, I
Yep.
am.
And that's only a couple weeks away. So I definitely want to dive into, how you're feeling and how this prep has gone in compared to maybe some of your previous preps. And we can chat about, pure factor and stuff like that too. But yeah, just how's
Yeah.
this prep going and how's it been if it's been different than previous preps, how?
Yeah. So this prep has been more difficult than any other prep that I've done, honestly. But
Oh no.
I, all preps are difficult.
Yeah.
And I think that when I started competing, I wasn't as clued into like all of the things that you need to do beforehand. So, first like 3 years that I spent competing, I never got blood work done, had no
Uh-huh.
idea, was just trusting the coaches that I had at the time, kind of taking shots in the dark. But
Sure.
I think because my body was so like fresh and new into competing, it did respond really well. Like I wasn't somebody who had to really grind super hard. It would maybe last couple weeks would be like upwards of 2 hours of cardio and then maybe like 1,000 calories a day. But that
Cool.
would literally be like 7 days, the last stretch of prep, like nothing too crazy. Um, in comparison, of course, to like the other preps I've done. But
Yeah.
this prep in particular, so when I started coaching myself, I started learning more about the body. I started learning about good practice with coaching with competitors. And I realized, oh, shoot, like I haven't been getting blood work done. I have no idea what's going on internally. I just kind of guess.
Mhm.
So I started getting blood work done more regularly. And then going into this year, this would be the third year that I try to prep for my pro debut. So 2022, 2023, I started contest preps and I got maybe about halfway through
Uh-huh.
or close to the end. And then we decided to not do those shows. Um, and so I have pushed my body every single year in prep and I
Yeah.
haven't taken a break. I would
Yeah.
just go in and then come out, reverse, go into an off season, improve, and then be like, okay, let's do it again.
Sure.
So, anyways, going into this preps in particular, I made the decision to commit to getting on stage because
Cool.
I haven't competed in 2 years.
Yeah.
Um, it's something that I love and something that I believe in is that you can't truly know where you need to improve unless you get up on stage next to other people. Like
Yeah.
you can do your prep in isolation and you can look great by yourself, but you just do not know how you're going to do
Yeah.
until you're on stage. Like that's the best practice is on stage. So
Wholeheartedly agree.
yeah, it's so me being a little bit stubborn with it. I did get blood work done at the beginning of the year, and I thought, okay, I have a couple months. I can fix this. I can fix it, and I can have a prep, and it'll be fine.
Yeah.
And then life kind of got busy, chaotic. I prioritized other things. I traveled. I had one of the best years travel wise. But
That's good.
yeah, it was just as a byproduct of that, though, I thought that it was the travel that was impacting my progress.
Mm.
And so then I'd reached out to you guys and I was like, I need to get blood work done. Something
Yeah.
is not working here because we were up to an hour of cardio a day, like an hour of fasted cardio, 1,000 calories a day, and just not dropping weight. Nothing
Yeah.
was really happening. I started getting really weird like menstrual cycle issues. So I was
Mm.
like, all right, my thyroid's probably getting impacted, cortisol. Like I had an idea of what was going on, but you just don't know. And it's better to get the data, it's better to get blood work done.
Yeah.
Um, and so my coach and I agreed that if I had a certain level of hormonal dysfunction, that I would pull out of prep.
Mm.
Um, and then we got the blood work back, which you guys helped me just kind of go through and figure out what was going on.
Yeah.
But I was right on the edge, and we had to have my coach and I had a conversation where she was like, if this was anybody else, like I would pull them from prep. But
Right.
because it's me and I told her at the beginning of the year, like, I have to do this. I have to
Yeah.
step on stage.
Yeah.
She was like, this is a special case, but
You
for
guys kind of
anybody
burned the
else,
boats. There's no turning back.
yeah, pretty much. We're like, we're committed to this. Let's see it through. And honestly, the way that I'm trying to frame it and look at it now is this is a really good experience for me as a coach with my own athletes,
Sure.
like being able to tell them like, hey, I've done the thing that everybody says not to do. Like these are the repercussions, these are the consequences, this is what happens. It's not I don't think that I'm in like a dire situation by any means, but I
Yeah.
do think that it is like really good anecdote for me to be able to lean back on it and tell my athletes like, listen, I've done this, I've prepped in an inopportune place, and this is what it came down to. This is what I had to do. If you're willing to sacrifice and grind and have maybe a less than ideal prep experience, then cool. Just go into it with your eyes open, go into
Yeah.
it with all of the education and information that you need to make that decision. But otherwise, I'm really looking forward to stepping on stage. I
Yeah.
don't think that this is going to be my like worst package ever. I'm actually really excited. Things are coming together, so it's going to be good. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, I love that. And there's a few different things I want to unpack from that so far. So first, you mentioned your coach. It's also your partner. Like you both are the head coaches of I believe it's called the A team, correct?
hmm
Yeah.
Yeah.
And her name is Megan.
Yep.
Okay. So you guys have kind of been collaborating on this. She's kind of your second eyes to help with those tough decisions when you're in the trenches for yourself.
Yeah.
Very cool. Um, yeah, no, I agree with you on it's really hard to find that perfect balance of like you need to take time off, you need to actually give your body time to improve. But the last podcast episode we did was with another prep client who, and we were actually talking about how he coaches a balance of guys and girls, and a lot of the guys have this, for lack of a better word, um, paralysis from analysis. Like they think they're never good enough. So instead of ever stepping on stage, they've now done like a 3 year off season. And it's like, well, bro, you don't even know what your weak points are. You're too soft to even analyze like how you actually
Right.
look and stuff. And we both know that everyone kind of has this misconstrued view of how much fat they actually have on their bodies and what their
Yep.
body is going to look like when it's truly stage lean, depleted, and stuff like that. Most people are surprised. Their glutes are smaller, their legs are smaller. For guys, their chest and arms might be smaller, their V taper might be less. So it actually, yes, you do want to make sure that you've built enough foundation, but also sooner or later, you need to shred down, see what's there, see how you stand next to the competition, and then create a new plan based off
Yep.
of that feedback and information and set yourself up next. And I think another problem in your case, you're an experienced competitor, but I think where people in your shoes run into an issue is if you take too much time off, we both know this, divisions change, man. A couple years, you're no longer even, your old package is no longer even competitive. Conditioning has changed, shape has
Yep.
changed, what the judges look for has changed, and you've kind of been, for lack of a better word, out of the spotlight for a little while. All those things play into um into like you need to stay in the scene. You need to stay
Right.
competitive. 1 to 2 years off is probably great, but longer than that, it's kind of hard to stay in it competitively,
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Yeah.
especially in like bikini.
That's right. That's exactly what I was going to say. Like, especially in bikini, because there is like a limit to the muscle that you can have on your physique. There is such a thing as too big in
Yep.
bikini, and also too dense, too hard, too
Yeah.
grainy. Like when you've been training hard and
Yeah.
intensely for a long time, you get that like graininess, that
Yeah.
density. They don't want that in bikini either. So it's like
Right.
you can't really take so much time off
Right.
and expect to come back and still fit the division criteria.
Right.
I think in my case, it's more so what you were speaking to. I have no idea what I look like
Yeah.
next to pros because I went pro in 2021 at nationals, and some of the girls I went pro with that year were on the Olympia stage this year.
Mm.
Like, and it's been incredible to watch their journey, but I also think to myself, okay, they were able to climb that in 2 years, and I know
Right.
most of them did not take time off. Like they
Yeah.
went, they maybe did a little like health growth season, and then they went right back into like the pro circuit.
Yeah.
um, and so seeing that, and even seeing how their physiques have developed and changed over the last 2 years with them constantly competing, keeping up with the division criteria, I'm even more so like I don't know where I'm going to fit in. So that's really why I wanted to get to stage,
Yeah.
because I need to have that roadmap. I want judges' feedback, and then if I do need to take the whole year or 2 years off, I will. But I'm still very much going to stay involved in the sport and keep
Yeah.
up to date. It's just I need the feedback. You need the
Yeah.
judges' feedback.
Yeah, totally. And I do think again, especially in professional bikini, there's oftentimes 40 plus pros on stage and shows are happening multiple weekends out of the month. So there's a
Yep.
lot of shows. The judges are seeing a lot of faces, a lot of bodies. You kind of need to stay in their eyesight and in their minds. If you go too long, you're climbing back up the ladder, like you mentioned. You're
Yeah.
kind of starting from scratch, which for your pro debut, you kind of already are starting from scratch, but climbing up that ladder. However, it's so tough on women. And I think this is why we see so many female competitors have health issues is finding that balance of like, well, you also need to take time off and fix your health and,
Yeah.
address those issues before stepping back on stage. So the back-to-back preps are just as bad as taking too much time off. It's so like individual and making those choices in the moment of like, what does my body need and what is my path of success look like?
Yep. Oh, 100%. And also trying not to let emotion come in and dictate like your
Yeah,
actions. Because for me, like 100%, I'll admit emotion was a very large part of the decision that I made.
sure.
Because if you look at everything logically, it doesn't quite make sense. But when there's the emotion behind it, I'm like, okay, I understand. I wanted to touch on what you mentioned, especially with bikini, like taking the time off versus back-to-back preps. I don't know if you're familiar with Jasmine Gonzalez.
I am. Yeah.
Um, okay, yeah. So she just placed fourth at the Olympia after taking, I want to say she took a full year off from competing.
Wow.
Yeah, I believe it was all of like 2023. She took all of it off. She got her health back. And she was one of those competitors that was back to back competing when they had the point system too. Like she
Yep.
was doing like 8, 9, 10 shows a year, getting
Crazy.
points, trying to win a show. Yeah, trying to get qualified. And like her physique was always almost there.
Right.
But then taking that 1 year off, she got her health into a really great place. I think she has endo. She's talked about it. Like she struggles with endometriosis. So
Yeah.
she kind of had to give her body that break, really
Yeah.
allow things to get back to a normal place. And then she just focused on growth. She took
Yeah.
the year and she came back, and now she did one show, won it, went to the Olympia, placed fourth.
That's
So
awesome.
yeah, I think that there's a lot to be said for taking the time off, the whether it is 1 or 2 years, but any more than that, for sure, it's like, okay, when are you going to get up there and actually give it a go?
Right, right. Yeah, no, that's a great story, and hopefully uh you know uh situations like that and your own experience too helps more of these up and coming women get a better understanding of that exactly what you said, that balance of emotional decisions from rational decisions. And obviously we have to give credit to coaches because we can assume that athletes are going to be emotional. It's kind of the coach's job to reel them back in and say, I know you would love to do that show in 10 weeks, but come on, like we
Yep.
need to be realistic here. Your blood work isn't looking so hot. You're not really responding great, or all these life things are happening. Maybe this just isn't the right time. You know what I mean?
Yep.
We can kind of foresee these things in advance and be like, this is not going to be smooth, you know?
Right. Yeah, that's definitely the benefit of having a coach and a good coach who's going to understand you as the athlete, understand your mentality, the emotions that come, like show day and post show. They're so heightened. I firmly believe you should not make further show plans on a show day or like post show.
Totally agree.
Take the weekend, take a week,
Yeah.
just because 1 week realistically isn't going to ruin anything. Like you should just take it, relax, start that reverse process and then make a decision if it
Yeah.
looks right, if it's the logical way to go. But yeah, that's for sure on the coach as well, not letting athletes just let their emotions guide them because
Yeah.
I've definitely had my own share of that as well.
Yeah. And I think what athletes need to understand is they probably think of that as like we're here to rain on their parade, but it's like, no, dude, like we care that much that we're actually willing to not have you step on stage, although that's our report card that
Hmm.
helps us from a marketing perspective and this and that. We're taking that hit too because we care about you short term and long term. So it's always coming from a place of love and care if we say that. I kind of want
Yeah.
to roll that into our next conversation because I think this is perfect. With your own experience this year and past years and what we've talked about already, what are some things that you do to kind of as a coach set your prep clients up for some longevity and maintaining health?
Yeah. I love that. So I'm a very direct, straightforward coach. I don't really like to sugarcoat things. So from the get-go, if I get a new athlete, they express interest in competing, I make sure they understand what that means.
Yeah,
Like you're not, it's not a bucket list experience we're just going to do for fun. I think that can be part of it. I think it can be fun and it can be an experience you want to have,
sure.
but you have to understand like what you're about to ask of your body, your mentality. So there's a series of questions that I go through with every athlete. Almost what you mentioned. I'll ask, where's your mental health? How's your relationship with food? When's the last time you got blood work done? Have you consistently followed a diet for the last 12 weeks? Are you doing any cardio? I need to get all of this information and kind of understand not only where their heads at, but also where are we with your physique and
Sure.
what expectations can we set for you in the show? Because
Sure.
for some people, they don't care about winning, they don't care about placing. It is about the experience. But for me as the coach, I want them to understand this is an extreme process. And along the way, you are going to want to win. You're going to say, why am I doing 2 hours of cardio a day if I'm not going to win? Like
Yeah.
that drive is going to come. You're going to have those thoughts. So we need to set the goalposts now. Because if you tell me that you just want this experience and we go on stage and you get beat, like I don't want you to come back and be like, oh, I didn't win. Like I'm disappointed because
Right.
your original goal, the expectation for you was that you wanted this experience. And like as
Totally.
your coach, I'm going to bring you in the best we can. But if we're not working with like the best of circumstances or the best starting points, then it's
Right.
like it's almost setting those realistic expectations. Especially with first time competitors, I've also found because that's where I primarily coach is like
Uh,
first time athletes.
yeah,
A lot of the time, I think that they see the glitz and the glamour and
yeah,
they see the clout and whatnot that you can get from competing all on online, and they
yeah,
think that doing it is going to provide them that, and it
yeah,
just that's not the reality.
yeah,
So making sure that their expectations in that regard are also in check
yeah,
is really important to me. But I'll map it out with them. I'll say, hey, here's what we're looking at, maybe like a 20, 25 week long prep. I prefer to give ourselves more time. If we're ready ahead
yeah.
of time,
I
great.
love that. Yeah,
But let's have some runway because life does happen. You might get
yeah.
sick, like something happens. And then I also start prepping them for the post show as well. Like during prep, I'm like,
Have
hey,
to.
like let me know where your food focus is. How are things going as far as your environment and your support system? Do you feel
Yeah.
like are you starting to hog things in your freezer? Like what's going on? I like to get a good kind of idea of where they're at because post show is way tougher than prep, but they
Oh,
don't understand that until they get there. So
oh my.
starting that mental preparation, I'll continuously check in with them about it, have conversations because I think that the we've talked about this. I think that the post show phase is one of the most critical phases to really nail because that's what's going to set you up for success moving forward.
Absolutely. And again, and you brought up a good point, regarding food aversion or mindsets around foods. We have to be very cautious because this sport already attracts people who kind of already have borderline eating disorders, and then you get into an intense prep that unfortunately has to be restrictive, it's going to just develop more of that. So I do really like that you guys care so much about the mental health aspect and not just like seeing them through the finish line, meaning show day. The show day is
Mhm.
not the finish line, seeing them through the after effects and moving forward. I think that's a crucial part of selecting a coach is, we should be as athletes asking, what is your approach to prep? What is your approach to post prep and stuff like that? And if
Yep.
they say, oh, do whatever you want, that's probably not someone who has your best interest in mind. So do you typically strategize show dates and timelines with your clients? Do a lot of clients come to you with a date already in mind? How does that typically go in your case?
So I've been pretty lucky. Most of the athletes I get, they don't have a show
That's
in
good.
mind. There have been a couple. I called them my shotgun preps because, they came to me, I had a girl this summer, she came to me 10 weeks out. She'd already registered for the show, bought everything,
Oh my goodness.
everything was bought, paid for, ready. She was just like, yeah, I just need to get my body there. And
Oh my
um,
goodness.
I, I honestly, I didn't mind that so much because she had already committed. So it's like, we're doing this thing. And
Yeah.
she had come to me and she knew, okay, we have 10 weeks. So
Yeah.
it's kind of like, no matter what happened, like I knew that she was going to be happy with the result because I knew I could get her to where she wanted to go. It was just, there was a deadline.
Yeah.
So not the most ideal. But for the most part, like when I have a consult call with a prospective athlete, if they have a show date in mind, I'll just ask them, I'll say, how married are you to that? Like, how committed are you to making that your show?
Yeah.
And if they're like, yeah, this is it, I really want to do this, then again, like I just have to be honest and say, like, I need to see your pictures, I need to see where you're at, and
Yeah.
I can give you my honest opinion if I think that you're going to be competitively ready or not. And if that doesn't sit well, then we might not be a good fit.
Yeah.
And that's okay. But I,
Yeah.
I want to make sure that like it's not just the results. What you said, like I do like winning. And I do think there's like an aspect of like results that drives marketing and sales and everything else. But I care about their experience. I
Sure.
want them to have a good experience and also be in the running to win. And so kind of finding the balance between that and giving ourselves enough time
Sure.
um,
Well, let's be honest,
is,
winning is fun. So like
yeah.
placing top three is going to be a lot more fun than last call outs.
Yes.
Some people have this non-competitive mentality that they just enjoy the experience. But I would say at least 85% of people would have a better time if they got top three. you put in all this work, you want to be somewhat rewarded for that. So, like you said, it's not this hyper fixation on first place or winning, so to speak, but it is part of the experience that you did well. Not just
Yep.
stepping on stage. What most people don't understand is the NPC will take anyone's money. So
Yeah.
stepping on stage, to be honest, is not this huge accomplishment that people think it is. Kudos to you if you like got over, your self-consciousness and stuff, but stepping on stage is not the accomplishment. Placing is technically the accomplishment, and so people need to kind of have the appropriate mentality, because I do think that sometimes we'll call them bucket listers. Sometimes bucket listers, it's almost disrespectful to everyone else who like just killed themselves for this,
Right. Sometimes I wonder if that is on the athlete or the coach. Like I think maybe both wear
I
like
think
hats
both.
of responsibility. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I think as a coach, being able to communicate that with your athlete that, hey, I know that you want to do this as an experience, but everybody that you're going to step on stage with is doing this to win. And like I'd like to see you have that will to win kind of thing.
Totally. Yeah,
Yeah.
totally. What you mainly work with first time competitors, you said. So
Mhm.
in your experience, have you run into a lot of people in the onboarding process that you recognized had hormone imbalances, metabolic issues, gut issues? Or do you feel like a lot of that tends to come after a couple years and as they've kind of, uh, you know, uh, worked their body over time? But do you encounter a lot of people who come to you already showing signs of those issues on the front end?
I would say it depends, but yes, I can spot when a woman likely has some sort of hormonal, metabolic, or digestive issue, usually off the bat, because they'll say things that are not normal in
Yeah.
like a very normal way. So in like in the questionnaire that I give, I ask about like menstrual cycle, I ask
Yeah.
about digestion, and I try to ask in a way that most like general people would recognize. So instead of saying like, oh, do you have gut dysbiosis? I'll ask, do you get bloated after meals? Do you have acid reflux,
Yes.
heartburn? Do you experience frequent gas? Or I'll even have like the Bristol stools chart and I'll say like on average, like
Oh,
where
that's
are we
great.
landing on this chart?
Yeah.
Um, because most people just they don't know and they've normalized it.
Yep.
And so if I can kind of bring awareness to, hey, that's actually not normal, then
Right.
I can start to dig in with them. What I've noticed is the older the woman that I'm working with, the more likely it is that she does have some sort of dysfunction,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Yeah.
A lot of my girls that are like probably honestly like 25 and up, like
Yeah.
25 is not that old, but 25
Yeah.
and up, like that's where I notice they likely have something.
Yeah.
I do have a handful of like college students,
Yeah.
first time competitors, and their issues are not as easy to spot because their lifestyle's a little bit higher stress anyways. Like
Yeah.
most of them are in school, they're in college, they're partying, their schedules
Yeah.
are wacky.
Yeah.
And
And
so
their
kind of
bodies are a little bit more resilient. The younger we are, we can get away with
yes,
more.
absolutely. Yeah, exactly. They don't feel they'll do an all-nighter and they're like, no, I feel fine. I'm like, okay.
Right. Right.
I remember those days.
Yeah.
But those are a little bit more tricky because, like you said, they're more health resilient. So I don't know. I'm like, I don't know if what you're feeling today is just because you had a bender last weekend or
Right.
like if there is an underlying issue. So with those, it takes a little bit longer. Like it'll
Yeah.
take months and months of being like, okay, this seems like a recurring thing that keeps popping up. Let's dig into it. But mostly, yeah, most of the women that I've worked with, 25 to like 40, almost all of them have some sort of underlying like health. I don't even want to say issue, but just something that needs to be optimized. Like it's not
Yeah.
always like a critical issue, but it
Of
is
course.
something that's like, hey,
Something that stands
that
out.
that actually, yeah, like and improving that could actually change a lot. for them. Like it can change your PMS severities and the things that you've been experiencing just like month to month start
Right.
to go away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what does that talk? So if you are kind of noticing things on their intake form, what does that initial talk look like? Are you bringing up blood work? Like what are those next steps if you're noticing a couple, we'll call them red flags?
Yeah. I like to approach everything with a lens of curiosity. So I'll come with more questions, try to dig in a little bit, because the other thing too is as a coach, I find that I'm very quick to want to jump into solution fix it mode. Like I want to be like, okay, here's what we're gonna do. You're gonna meditate in the morning. You're gonna take
Yeah.
this supplement X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
But everybody's different, and so I'll approach it from, okay, if this is just a brand new person, I don't know much about them except this, ask the questions. Like, okay, what do they do for work? What's their schedule? Just dig in, dig in, dig in. And once I feel like I have a really good picture of the individual, who they are as a person, how they operate, then I'll start to do next step things. So if I feel like it's low hanging fruit, like lifestyle behavior
Yep.
changes, I'll start there.
Yep.
If it is something that I feel is more critical or more like we need to get this looked at ASAP, then I'll go to blood work.
Yeah.
Um, but I have a women's like questionnaire
Mhm.
that I'll send over for them as well that can kind of identify based off their symptoms.
Yep.
So like for example, like excess estrogen, it's like there's all these check boxes and I just have them check boxes, total it up, they send it over to me.
Yeah.
They don't see what they're putting, like I'll interpret it for them.
Yeah.
Because also some people have funny ideas already. So they'll be like, oh, I'm just estrogen dominant. I'm like, okay, well, let's take the
I don't know
questionnaire.
what that means.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I'm like, somebody told you that and you like latched onto it without actually knowing. But
Right.
so there's kind of a I would say it's maybe like a three-step process. It'd be like the questions that I ask them, our conversations, digging in a little bit deeper, and
Yeah.
then I'll have them do the women's questionnaire. And then I'll take that, and if I'm like, okay, we're showing signs of things here, then I'll ask them to get blood work.
Yeah, I think that's great. What a lot of people need to understand what, why we harp on these things in the front end is no one can argue that contest prep is going to add a significant amount of stress to your life. Between the training, the cardio, the dieting, the potential use of performance enhancing drugs, all of these things are adding stress. And as you get more tired, what do? You increase your caffeine and stimulant intake too. So that's another stressor on the body. So to Noah's point, if you've never competed before, you're not even that hard into fitness, but you're already showing signs of high cortisol, poor recovery, uh, hormone imbalances, which then impacts metabolic function. Those things are already happening now. Well, what's going to happen when we double your stress and push your body for 4 to 6 months? You're kind of starting a race with a semi-flat tire, guaranteeing that it's just going to get slower and slower. And, everyone has different thresholds and resiliency. So we oftentimes see the first prep go really well. That was their honeymoon period. Body responded perfectly.
Yeah.
Second prep, a little bit slower, but still successful. That third prep and that fourth prep, just roadblock after roadblock after roadblock. The body is stalling. And this is because the body is adapting over time and the hormone imbalances are just getting worse and worse and worse. Their BMR is getting slower and slower and slower. Everything has adapted now. So the body has the coach has no more tools to kind of throw at the body because it's just so adapted. So by doing these things in advance, we're making sure that this prep has the highest possible success, but also all future preps have highest possible success. So
Yeah.
it's not just long term, it's short term too, meaning your next 3 to 4 months. And that's something you kind of experienced this year for yourself too.
Oh yeah. Absolutely. It's it's been an experience, that's for sure. But I think it helps to know, for me at least, like it helps to know that okay, the reason why I wasn't seeing response, there was an actual underlying reason for that. Like,
Always.
I think mentally it was really difficult for me to do all of the things like sleep, recovery, train, cardio, everything like 100% and then not see any sort of progression. Like
Yeah.
on the scale, pictures, like measurements, I was like, nothing is happening. Like,
Yeah.
what is going on? And that was like a very difficult mental hurdle.
Yeah.
And I think without the blood work getting done, without me figuring out like, okay, this makes sense, this is why, I'd probably still be mentally struggling. And I think the more you're in your own head, the harder everything else is going to be too. Like
Totally.
competing is very mental as well as physical. Like we talk a lot
Totally.
about the physical stress, but there's so much of the mental component of that too.
Yeah, and if you have a pessimistic or negative outlook on every day, every week, or just say the remainder of prep, you kind of we all have heard the term like speaking things into reality. That's true with positive thoughts, and that's unfortunately true with negative thoughts. So if you're harping on the negativity and basically saying I'm not seeing any results, that's going to continue to snowball and just add more external stress onto yourself and continue the lack of results. um, so if you don't mind, I'd like to kind of
Mhm.
touch a bit deeper on your own experience
Yeah.
and what we did at the clinic with you recently. We got your labs back a couple weeks ago, and we noticed a couple subpar things. There was nothing extraordinary, so to speak, but we were actually able to compare because you guys did your due diligence before prep. So we had
Yep.
pre-prep labs and during prep labs.
Hmm.
And we could see, that cortisol shot up a good bit from March. Sex hormones went down a little bit, and thyroid went down a little bit. All 100% normal adaptations that happen to a body in prep. But the level of adaptations in your case led to your roadblocks. And
Hmm.
so, immediately seeing that cortisol too high, we knew, okay, she's not going to benefit from more cardio. She's not going to benefit from less food. We need to do the opposite and counterbalance this really high cortisol. And that's where we kind of talked about some supplementation. We got you some chill factor from Pure Factor
Yep.
to which is a group of different adaptogens to help reduce cortisol and help her body respond better to the stress. Her and Megan, you guys pulled back cardio. I think you did a
Yep.
refeed. Did you do a
Hmm.
refeed and bump food? Do both?
We did back-to-back refeeds.
Nice.
So I did 2 days of high food, and then we also did a cardio break, maybe
Nice.
like 3 days later.
Yeah.
And that was like a 2 day cardio break, and that was fantastic. I think I lost like 5 pounds in the span of a week, like Monday to
That's
Friday. It
incredible.
was like, yeah, and
Yeah.
and it wasn't 5 pounds of like mass. It was
Of
like,
course.
you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
because sometimes, as a bodybuilder, I get nervous that it's like, oh, it's a muscle, but
Right.
no, it was great. Um, and since then, we've kind of been able to follow that cadence. We
Yep.
push me pretty hard for like 3, 4 days. We'll push, 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 and then we
Yep.
pull back and we'll either do a cardio break or a refeed.
Yep.
Um, and that just, I'll see like 2 pound drops. It's just, my body's pretty responsive to the cadence that we have right now. So
Yeah.
it's been good. Yeah.
I mean, I think this is just such a great example of, like we said, the benefits of pre-blood work, but also
During.
intermediate blood work, because you guys kind of hit a stall, didn't know exactly where to pivot, but the blood work gave you guys exact information. Like there's no
Right.
question of if this is what's holding us back, let's take immediate action. We help support some of the hormones that were dysregulated, but now you
Yep.
guys can constantly manipulate food and training to combat these adaptations and just keep seeing progress more and more into the show. I think it's a perfect example of how people should approach things if you
Yep.
are seeing Roadblocks, don't wait, get the
Yep.
blood work immediately, because the sooner you have those answers, the sooner the coach has the ability to make educated decisions. Because without blood work, how are you making educated decisions?
Right.
At best, you're making educated guesses.
Oh yeah. Educated wishes. You're just like, I hope this is gonna work. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It definitely it made a huge difference. And for me personally, and I think most bodybuilders are like this, we want to push, we want to grind. So for me, like I was like, oh, I must not be working hard enough. Like I must not be doing the things enough.
Yeah.
And it truly was pulling back
Yeah.
and understanding exactly what was going on in my body that just it made all of the difference.
Mhm.
And also like the sleep component because
I was gonna bring that up. Sleep,
okay, yeah,
energy,
yeah.
mental health. How have those things been?
It's been incredible. It's been so different because um, not only with like chill factor, but also with the hormones, the HRT that we have in place, or
Yeah.
I guess I'll just say it like I'm taking progesterone
Mhm.
at night.
Yeah.
Um, and that has been amazing.
Yeah.
I think I didn't realize what a high I'm a little bit more high strung, like I'm a little bit more of an like anxious person.
Sure.
And it gets exacerbated in prep with like the
Yeah.
use of stimulants and all of this other stuff. Like I'm
Sure.
constantly just heightened.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize until I started taking chill factor, progesterone, like implementing a bedtime routine,
Yeah.
like how key that really was and how much I wasn't actually relaxing and
Yeah.
resting.
Yeah.
Um,
That's
because
huge.
yeah. And my cortisol was really high, which looking back, it makes so much sense. But I was waking up at 2 in the morning, like wide awake, just
Oh,
every
wow.
night, up like right, like my cortisol was like spiking, and I was
Yeah.
awake. I was like, oh, it must be 6 a.m. And I check my phone, nope, 2 a.m., 3 a.m. So I was
Wow.
having this like really inappropriate response
Yeah.
every night. And then ever since we've implemented the chill factor and progesterone and everything else, like I sleep through the night. And I
That's
honestly sometimes oversleep. Like it's
yeah.
incredible.
Yeah.
It feels so good.
So to kind of help the listeners, because I'm sure we're gonna have a lot of, female listeners for sure, but
Mhm.
potentially, female competitors too. Progesterone is a hormone that doesn't get enough attention in the female competition world, mainly because not enough people are highly educated and experienced in the differences between male and female physiology. So with men, it's just estrogen and testosterone balancing. But with women, we have this whole other hormone that is actually vital for success. So progesterone controls metabolic function. Women with low progesterone have more cellulite, store more water and fat around their lower body and their waist. And with low progesterone, you can have the best diet, the best cardio plan. You can be in a deep caloric deficit, but it is very hard to consistently lose weight with low progesterone. So why do we see so many females, whether we're talking competitors or just Gen Pop, dealing with low progesterone? One of the main reasons is stress. In a woman's body, progesterone actually converts to cortisol. So as you push the body harder and harder and cortisol goes up, progesterone is going down, making your progress slower and slower and slower. So having that stress balance truly is essential for consistent fat loss. In a lot of cases, supporting progesterone can be one of the best things that a woman does in contest prep. And in Noah's case, that perfect balance of bringing down cortisol and bringing up progesterone is exactly what her body needed to keep seeing results. To touch just briefly on the uh the Olympian you mentioned, Jazzy, um, endometriosis. I've actually treated tons of women with endometriosis over the years. Ironically enough, every single woman I've worked with endometriosis has a couple things in common: high stress, GI issues, and estrogen dominance, meaning an imbalance of estrogen and progesterone. that lack of regular cycles due to those hormone imbalances and high stress is what leads to the endometriosis. So I think, there's a lot of labels in Western medicine, PCOS, endometriosis, IBS being examples of this. People don't have enough context about these, so they just assume, oh, I have this label. There's a
Yeah.
reason that that's happening in your body. And believe it or not, you can take action to fix those things. So in that competitor's case, that year off, addressing her health, reducing her stress, probably helped balance some of those hormones and improve metabolic function. So she could have such a successful prep this year. If she still is having issues, though, it's probably means she needs to just do a little bit of hormone tweaking and get that endometriosis under better control. But no, I appreciate your transparency with your own journey this prep and your own
Yeah.
troubleshooting that you've done, because I do truly think that the transparency is the most important thing for women to learn. If we
Yeah.
all are kind of hiding what we're doing in our back pocket, how's anyone going to learn? You know what I mean?
Right. And I think sometimes it takes hearing somebody else's experience and their journey and
Yes.
their story for somebody to realize, oh, wait, that sounds really similar to me.
Yeah.
And then, they can get their own answers, they can do their own digging. But yeah, I don't think that contest prep has to be this terrible, horrible grind. Like if your
Right.
body is in a great place, it can actually be a really fun experience of
That's it.
linear progression and changing and like
That's it.
pushing and
Yeah.
pulling these variables. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and all to say, like, the more work you do on the front end, the smoother, more successful that prep's going to be
Yeah.
throughout that timeline. Um, this is kind of a question that I like to ask my fitness coaches that I have on. What is one thing you'd like to see change about the bodybuilding industry in modern times?
Oof, that is a really great question.
It's a tough one.
It is a tough one.
Or at least what's something that you've seen change that you don't love, maybe over the past 5 to 10 years?
I think the perpetual idea that you have to kill yourself in order
Mm,
to do well in the
yes.
sport
Suffering.
or yes, there's this very like sinister storyline that people like to attach themselves to that if I just work harder, if I just keep going, work harder, 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 and sacrifice everything, like somehow that is going to result in this success. And I actually think Chris Bumstead does a really great job of speaking about this topic in particular that
I agree.
you 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 can't commit every single thing in your life to this one singular goal of like being good at bodybuilding.
Right.
It's really about the journey. And the best way to be successful at bodybuilding is to live that lifestyle, but do other things with your life.
Totally.
I feel like Chris probably does a way better job of summarizing it, but I would love to see more people find their version of success and balance within the
Mhm.
sport.
No, I wholeheartedly agree. And I mean, obviously, Chris is capable of that because of his genetics and stuff like that. But I think Chris is one of the best examples for mainly males, but males and females over the last few years, because he does have autoimmune issues. He does have to, I don't want to say baby, but care for himself more than potentially other competitors have. He takes way more time off from the gym after the Olympia. He does way less PEDs than most of the people he competes against, and he's very open about that. Um, he's very communicative with his coach regarding deload periods and listening to his body, but also, he's a great businessman. He owns multiple
Yeah.
companies now. He's a husband and father. So he's doing a great balancing act, and he also has his head on very straight. So
Yes.
I do think he's by far one of the best influencers of the bodybuilding world in the modern day, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. That's his message is one that I hope resonates for so many athletes and so many people out there because it's it's a sport that we love so much and
Yeah.
it's just really unfortunate to see people who come in and kind of get burned by it in a sense. Like they allow themselves to get bitter and then kind of exit the sport with a bad taste in their mouth when it's
Yeah.
like this sport can teach you so many things. It can
Yeah.
change you as a person as long as you don't let it just control everything in your life.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I was guilty of that definitely back in the day. It was this all or nothing mentality where I eat, sleep, and breathe bodybuilding, have no external, anything in life. Um, but that's not conducive to happiness long term.
Right.
We
It's
want to
it's
be
not going to
happy.
fulfill you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And at one point, there was this resentment of the sport and my own, toggling my own mental issues and battles with myself when I was still competing and stuff. One of the best things on my mental health was honestly putting my goals aside and just switching to full-time coaching because I just knew that the people I was working with had far more genetics and capacity for success than I did. So why be selfish and, keep doing this to myself when I could just focus on helping them as much as possible. And I think that did help me a lot, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm very excited on it to step away from the stage intentionally, like in
Yeah,
the next year, because I have a lot of girls who want to compete next year.
yeah,
I'm like, that's perfect because I'll be in my growth season or health phase, whatever it is. I'll be in a different phase. I won't
yeah,
be in prep myself, so I can really dedicate to them.
yeah,
And also, I think it'll scratch that competing itch for me as well. Like I'll seeing them on stage competing will fulfill me just as
yeah,
much as me stepping on stage.
yeah.
Um, but something that you said, I just kind of wonder, I feel like people have to kind of go through that all or nothing experience. I wonder if there's a way to make it better for them. Like as a
Yeah,
coach, like I understand my first time competitors, they are all or nothing.
yeah,
Like the prep becomes their life. And I
yeah,
think that that experience is valuable in itself. It's just
yeah,
when it becomes, okay, we're like 5 preps in and still this is all that you have.
yeah.
That's when I'm like, okay, how do we find that balance? So as a coach, for me, like I'm still kind of trying to work on how I can convey that and talk to them about it,
I
but
think
also
there's a
knowing that
fine
like,
line between passion and obsession. I think obsession gets dangerous. I think passion is very
mm,
healthy.
yeah,
So
I
if I
like that.
had to, I agree with you. And if I had to kind of define what you just said, that would be my best explanation of like once you start seeing get people get overly obsessive, a lot of the talk gets more negative. We're
Mm,
not saying
yeah,
positive obsession, we're seeing negative obsessions. You're letting your relationship at home get worse. You're letting how you treat your kids get worse. You're letting your performance at your job get worse.
yeah,
Like these are not good shifts,
I like that a lot. Yeah,
you know?
yeah, I agree. I love that. Cool.
Um, one thing I wanted to touch on too is your team, the A team.
Mhm.
So how long have you guys been together now, officially?
I started working with A Team in January, so
Okay.
we're going on 10 months. Yeah,
Cool. Almost to the 1 year mark.
yeah,
Uh,
almost a year.
that's so awesome. What do you feel like the benefits? from joining that team have been from like just a business and personal growth perspective for you?
Yeah, so I was able to quit my corporate job and like go full-time online coaching. So that
Awesome.
was a huge business win.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then just continuously improving like my skills as a coach. So something awesome that Megan had set up when I came in was like private mentorship.
Oh, cool.
So yeah, so I actually get to work one-on-one with Dom Kuza.
Mm.
I went through his contest prep like group course, and then I also have like one-on-one private sessions with him where like if I need to troubleshoot anything or if I have questions or really if I just anything at all, like I get to kind of drive those. So if I want to learn about a topic or if I have a client that's given me trouble in any way, like I can just ask Dom, what's your opinion on this and continue to learn that way. And then she also got me plugged into a business coach. So I have a business coach mentor
Cool.
program that I'm going through as well. So lots of like professional development.
That's great.
Yeah, which has been awesome. And then as far as like personal growth, I love A Team and what it stands for. We've created, I would say it's a majority like women's team. I do still coach men, but I'm the only coach on a team that coaches men, and I only have
Oh,
a
okay.
handful.
Yeah.
Um, but I just I think that the draw for me was seeing how Megan operates, like how she is on social media, on podcasts, like YouTube, all of that is how she is in real life. Like she doesn't hide. She's a very authentic version of herself, and I wanted to step into that as well. Like I felt like for a while I'd been kind of playing small, wearing different hats, different masks. And I was like, you know what, this year, 2024, that's the year that I truly want to show up as Noah and be my true self. And what you see is what you get kind of thing.
Yeah.
Um, and so that was really my goal going into this year. And I feel like A Team just really aligned with that. And
Yeah.
it's been such an amazing time. I've traveled to Tampa way more this year than ever in my life before. Like I've probably been to Florida twice the amount that I usually do, but um, it's been a really, really great experience. So I think it made sense in all the ways to make
Yeah.
that move. So I'm really grateful that I was able to do that.
That's awesome. I mean, yeah, that great self growth, business growth. That's so awesome. I'm really happy for you.
Yeah, thank you.
What we're getting to about that time, and I know you're equally as busy as I probably am today. So to finish up, I just want to make sure everyone has the ability to contact you and know where to reach you, A Team. Tell us about, how the best way that they can contact you, check out the A Team, stuff like that.
Yeah. So Instagram is my bread and butter. You can find me Noah McCabe _ IFBB Pro. And then we also have the A Team page. It's A Team Athletes on Instagram. But there's links in those bios, and it'll take you to our A Team website. But if you want to chat with me, my DMs are always open. I check them all the time. So you can just send me a message. We can chat. But I love to connect with everybody. So if there's any like questions, comments, anything from this episode or previous, like let me know. I'm happy to answer.
That is awesome, guys. Yeah, please follow Noah. She's always handing out gems of information on her Instagram, and she is truly an open book if you have any questions for her. She's also a fantastic option if you're looking for prep or lifestyle coaching in the future. So make sure you give her a follow. And Noah, thank you so much for coming on today. I'm really excited to watch the rest of your prep. And hopefully we can have you on again, potentially Megan as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I would love that. That'd be great.
Yeah. All right. Well, I hope you have a great day and we'll be talking soon.
Awesome. Thank you, Matt.
Take care. Bye bye.